I am Port Arthur Jail, a hollow memory of the past, a fire-blackened, gutted, and ravaged remain of another, more terrifying time in history. Yes, I am Port Arthur Jail, the most notorious prison settlement below the equator. And to my walls here on the Tasman Peninsula in the southernmost part of Australia came 30,000 men, fearful, bitter, and convicted men, to a strange and alien land, halfway across the world from their homes.
George Blackthorne, crime, poaching, sentence 7 years. Robert Tilborn, crime, stealing a lace handkerchief, sentence 7 years. Charles Messenger, crime, theft of a gold locket and resisting arrest, sentence 12 years. Dunstan Carpenter, crime, forgery and larceny, sentence the
murderers too. And I can tell you a tale to make your blood run cold and your heart cry out in anguish. If these walls could speak.
If these walls could speak, what stories they would tell.
Vincent Price. You know me. We're old friends. And it is my pleasure to take you backward through time, back to the period of 1830 to 1877. The place, the last great frontier on the face of the earth, Australia. The scene, a prison which housed up to 6,000 convicts at one time, the Port Arthur Jail. In the opening of our program, you witnessed what the penitentiary at Port Arthur looks like today. But let me show you a photograph of it as it was then. Busy, bustling, and terrifying to its inmates, all transported from England, Ireland, Scotland, and Wales. This high-security jail, named after the governor of the territory, Colonel George Arthur, soon became known as the end of the world to the many convicts sent here. Its strict discipline and many sadistic guards and warders gained for it a reputation seldom matched in the history of penal colonies. But why delay? Let us go to the walls of this prison and allow them to speak. Let us hear the story as I become the voice of those walls. I became the last despair, the last address of many, so many. Here I stood, grim, firm, unrelenting, and my iron bars and dimly lit cells brought nameless terrors to those poor wretches who were sent to me. The chains, manacles, and leg irons, the floggings and cruel and harsh treatment meted out by more than a few of my guards and warders served as an ever-present example of man's inhumanity to man. About me, the land and sea presented scenes of matchless beauty, yet offered no chance to escape. In its raw, majestic grandeur, the surrounding land was breathtaking to behold, yet dangerous and inaccessible. Only one spot held any promise to my desperate prisoners. Only this tiny strip of land which connected the mainland with the peninsula upon which the prison stood. If one could swim these shark-filled waters and cross this 200 yards of land, one might reach the open sea and freedom. But armed guards patrolled it. Ferocious dogs were set loose, and everywhere were man-traps. Here is all that remains of my lovely church at the penal colony. It was designed and built by convict labor, its 13 spires denoting the Lord Jesus Christ and his 12 apostles. And yet this church was never consecrated, for during its construction, one convict worker killed another in a fight, making consecration impossible. Still, the prisoners all attended services on the Sabbath. It was compulsory. And they used to walk 4 abreast up this lane. As they neared the church, the lines would divide, 2 men going to the right to enter by the north entrance, and the remaining 2 of each foursome turning left to the south entrance. The convicts were seated in tiered galleries, while overhead, brandishing their loaded muskets, were the warders, ever watchful. Then a giant curtain would be drawn to hide the convicts from the respectable people of the community. Soon the minister would climb the stairs to his pulpit, once situated here, and begin his sermon.
Dear friends, our hearts are filled with sadness today on learning of the arrival of the Lady Franklin with 250 new convicts to our colony. These poor, misguided creatures, whose crimes hath headed them down the path to hell, need our prayers and our kindly thoughts in the midst.
I, Captain O'Hara Booth, was the commandant of Port Arthur Jail for 11 years, from 1833 to 1844. From my house atop a knoll, I had a good view of the harbor and the prison buildings. Our modern and well-equipped hospital, now a shambles. The home of our medical superintendent, that of our second surgeon, and the residence of our Roman Catholic priest. And immediately adjacent to my house were the soldiers' barracks, the observation tower, the powder magazine, and the courthouse. And inasmuch as no prisoner would be punished without a fair trial, our courthouse was often a busy place.
And the charge against the prisoner, Warder?
The prisoner struck me, sir, he did, and without no provocation, neither.
That's a blooming lie, your grace. He's been me enemy here since he was a convict like me, and got his ticket of leave to become a bleeding warder.
Silence!
Why, he's
Silence, 50 lashes!
50 lashes? Have mercy, your grace. I'm not a well man.
Silence! Silence! Or I'll make it 100.
And 50 lashes with the cat of 9 tails he would receive here at the flogging. Tied to wooden staves, the prisoner waits for the cutting bite of the whip. His white back, fully exposed, shines in the sunlight, and as the order to begin the flogging is given, he quivers in fear. 9 crimson bars now stripe his back. Now the blood beads on his skin. Soon the convict's back is swollen into a lumpy mass, resembling a ripe peach bursting its skin. The prisoner faints and is revived by a bucket of salt water thrown over him. It stings him, but it brings him back to consciousness. The doctor, for one is always in attendance at a flogging, then examines the man and signifies that the whipping may continue. And on, and on.